Hi, my name is Scott Kurland, and my best friend Lils Martin hates musicals.
I'm Lils Martin, and my friend and acquaintance Scott Kurland loves musicals.
Wait, what?
But I don't begrudge him for it or anything.
Wait,
I don't know.
I said you were my best friend, and you just called me a friend and acquaintance?
Yeah.
I was working really, really hard on creating this podcast for you where I show you great movie musicals and bad movie musicals because I love you, but you want to be a dick. We were supposed to record this promo for Hell is a Musical, and what are we doing right now?
Sounds like we're recording the promo right now.
Hell is a Musical on the Zero Science Network.
Be there. Welcome to a new episode of Jukebox Zeros. I'm Lils.
I'm Patrick. A brand new episode.
What?
A brand new one. Wow.
That's just what came out of my mouth today.
I mean, we're not doing a clip show today.
No, it's not the spinoff showcase.
Dang. Well, I had all these clips set up from all our past episodes. There's going to be like a whole kind of mixed media thing, but
okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and play them anyway. Like that
right.
one. Do you remember that one time we were stuck in the convenience store?
Hey, Littles. Yeah, yes, Patrick. They're out of beef jerky. I hope we get out of here soon. I hate being stuck.
See, I don't remember that clip, even though I just introduced it.
No, that was from the, what was that from? That was from the Sid Barrett Madcap Laughs episode. Do you remember? Jason Lane and was right there, and as was Pam.
Where were they in this whole time then? Were they just watching us be stuck inside of a convenience store?
Who do you think gave us the convenience store? They died, so we could.
I don't know. A crazy rich uncle.
You could be onto something there. You could be, because
I don't know. One of us could have a crazy, rich, deranged billionaire uncle, Willikers J. Biscuit or whatever.
Oh, Willikers J. Biscuit or Sid Hoffman.
Or Sid Frenchman.
Okay, fair enough. There's wide debate. I think there's room in this world for both.
Anyway, welcome to the podcast where your idols come to die. We're normal now.
Yes, we are. As is stated, the more times you say it, the more normal you are, right?
Oh yeah, no one who's not normal would say it this many times, or feel like they would have to, reiterate it this many times for that matter.
It's not like that episode of Xavier Renegade Angel where he's like trying to look like he's in the human skin and he's just saying, "Well, I'm normal."
Or like that Kids in the Hall sketch, the Sizzler sisters. Or like Dave Foley and Kevin McDonald hold up a bank and they're like, "We're the Sizzler sisters and we're not two clearly insane people."
It's been a while. Since Miles, I have to catch the new stuff too. I know it's
yeah, I need to check that out too. Our guest might need to check that out too. We got Steve Borek in the house.
Yeah.
Hey. Thanks
Steve
for having
Borek.
me.
Yes, from the local Boston 80s. Well, they're not really from the 80s, but they sound like it. Teleelectrics.
I'm from the 80s. I mean, that counts.
I mean, you are.
Yes, close enough. Kate, she's 80s too, just barely, but she's 80s.
so they're 5-1, and they have a band together in the 80s.
That's right. Good times.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very good times.
Yeah,
we're not here to talk about synth pop today, though.
We're here to apologize.
You know what? When
Yeah.
you're right, Patrick. We are, in fact, here to apologize first.
Sorry,
Got anything you want to apologize for this week, Pat?
Ooh, don't apologize for that. That was a great clip. Great usage.
That was spectacular.
Yeah, I couldn't. That was actually like.
Well, I mean, based on what we're about to talk about, I had to use some tangentially relevant clip, and that felt like the most appropriate.
I feel like it was the most appropriate and like the best produced clip out of all the clips we've had so far. Hands down. Anyway.
Well, that's in keeping with Steely Dan if I ever, saw that.
Of course, yeah. We
Dude, spoilers.
We have to keep it consistent, of course. I don't know what I'm going to apologize for this time around. I always think about it like before, like as I'm listening to the album, I'm like, all right, I got to think back. Like, what did I say? What was stupid? What was a dumb thing that I said? And I just come up with nothing because everything I say is
I can't remember I can't remember most things that we say from previous episodes at any given moment. So
you're welcome.
So I don't have a clip for that. I don't have a clip for that, unfortunately. Should I just go ahead and introduce the album that we're dealing with today?
That we're dealing with, yes. Yes, let's put our cards on the table.
I have a feeling this is going to be kind of an interesting episode because, like I always mention at the top, where your idols come to die, and I feel like this is kind of an idol that you're going to end up having to kill this episode, maybe just a little bit.
You know what? There's been a lot of big names, a lot of big peeps we've taken down a peg on this show, but this one was a bit harrowing for me.
I'm sure we've all had that moment. I didn't enjoy hearing David Bowie's worst album.
No, none of us.
One of his worst. Back in season 1. Anyway, the 2001 Grammy Awards were something of a banner year for the music award and a turning point of general opinion towards the institution for many. That year saw several albums considered the greatest of all time up for the flagship prize of Album of the Year, albums that were considered major creative points in the careers of the artists who made them. They included Midnite Vultures by Beck, an acclaimed album that defined itself by its wild genre fusion and cinematic richness and would earn a major cult following of influence over the years. Kid A by Radiohead, who threw their precious Brit-pop success against the wall in favor of grand experimentation with unorthodox instruments and directly defied music industry sales expectations. The Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem, which represented a major turn for the Michigan rapper, diving heavily into more introspective lyricism, transgressive imagery, and dark satire. You're the One by Paul Simon, which was also there. The conventional wisdom of anyone who could see the forest from the trees dictated that it would be either Radiohead, Eminem, or to a slightly lesser extent Beck who would claim the Record of the Year prize, as all three records had the capacity and potential to go down as the timeless pieces of art that they were destined to become. So you can imagine the looks of shock from critics and disgust from younger generations when all three records were snubbed in favor of Two Against Nature, a 2001 comeback record by yacht rock icon Steely Dan. Their success at the Grammy Awards was deemed...
That's just what happens when you say Steely Dan. Oh yeah.
Oh wait, that was one of enjoyment.
Yeah, it was of enjoyment. It wasn't a grunt towards your use of the term. It
wasn't a cringy grunt. It was an ooh yeah grunt.
Yeah, I wasn't cringing at your usage of yacht rock for a band that I think is at least slightly better than that. They're like prog yacht.
I mean, yeah, but you can't deny their connection to that label.
No, of course. It's
they're
really
kind of
the easiest way to describe them. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they've done much better things than. Not to say that yacht rock is just terrible on its face, but I feel like they've done a lot more. But let me finish my.
Better than Gino Vanelli, I know.
Their success at the Grammy Awards was deemed a sort of revenge on behalf of the baby boomers who grew up with their cerebral brand of jazz rock, and is looked upon as a glaring misstep for the award show, and often pointed to in arguing its irrelevance. Steely Dan, meanwhile, already a comparatively controversial group even among the boomers, will be written off further by large swaths of Gen Xers and millennials. And that's where we're at now. And it's time for us to listen to Two Against Nature by Steely Dan.
Yeah. finally.
Yeah. So, as we were saying, you're a very big Steely Dan fan, Pat.
Yeah. So I mean,
you've often said that they're one of your major inspirations.
They're one of my major inspirations. I think I could safely say they're one of my favorite bands. I'm not like really a guy who says like favorite bands is a thing anymore, but yeah, I mean, I think they influenced me enough. I think I listened to them enough. I could still get a lot out of them enough that yeah, they're one of my faves. They're in my book the goats of sort of that gold standard of pop songwriting. I think and production too. And they did, and there's a lot of great playing. And it was a band that I grew up with too, that I've kind of been cognizant of my whole life, and kind of also discovered at other later points through like other various avenues. Something that my wife and I both love and listen to quite a bit, and something that we do together to enjoy. We saw them live back in 2014. I fucking love them. But oddly enough, I never listened to Two Against Nature until this listen. So this was kind of an interesting thing for whatever reason.
So I was about to ask, like, if you felt any sort of hesitation or trepidation, like in tackling a Steely Dan album on the show.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it was like I said, I never listened to this album, and I think it was because it came out in 2000. Probably during a time that I wasn't really thinking about Steely Dan, and wasn't really like I was into whatever was popular at that point, like Weezer or whatever the hell, and probably didn't like get back into them until years later. So I kind of forgot about it for a long time.
That was when you're going through your big Len phase.
Yeah, of course. 2000. Everyone's listening to Len. Everyone's soaking up.
Everyone's having their sunshine stolen.
Yeah, everyone's stealing sunshine. Then you got to soak up the sun with Sheryl Crow. And then there was
Walk on the Sun by Smash Mouth.
Everyone was on the sun.
Everyone was doing stuff to the sun.
Yeah, like just doing whatever they could kind of wrangle up for that particular afternoon.
Sunshine Superman by Donovan.
No.
Anyway,
it wasn't there yet. So yeah, this was my first rodeo with Two Against Nature. I do remember hearing like little bits and clips of it when my dad got it back in 2000, and like I didn't really think much of it. I was, this sounds Steely Dan-esque, but probably not for me. I'm listening to Godsmack, the real music right now, so that's what I was thinking at the time. I weirdly enough had listened to Walter Becker's and Donald's solo albums, their respective solo albums, before all of this too. So this was like not hearing them together in the same room, really. Although Donald was on the 11 Tracks of Whack album with Walter Becker, or he produced it or whatever. But hearing these guys kind of kicking around ideas in the same room again. Well, I guess we'll get into my thoughts at some point.
Right. Do you have any major sort of historical experience with Steely Dan as well, Steve?
Oh, just a little. I'm just going to sound like exactly what Pat said for a large part of it. On top of that, I was there for this tour, saw them on this tour.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I got into Steely Dan heavily around 14. So this is in like the mid 90s, right when they were coming back. And what happened was my godmother gave me a box set of Steely Dan, like the Citizen Steely Dan box set, which had every single like studio album they had produced, a couple of rarities like Here at the Western World, which was a ridiculous song, like ridiculously good, that should have been included on, I don't know, something like Asia or Royal Scam or something, one of those. I think that's when it was recorded, right around there. Maybe it was at the end of Katie Lied when they were doing that, but either way, got into them pretty heavily. Drove my sister out of her mind, who was listening to like Deftones and stuff at that point, I think. So you've got like one stereo in the house blasting, Reeling in the Years or Boston Rag or freaking Asia, and then that
Dr.
going,
Wu.
it was interesting, and then driving her around the high school with Steely Dan and the CD player. I was just like, what's wrong with you? You should have seen the ridicule I took for this. And so like you said, Smash Mouth, that was about like my senior year, and then this was going for me instead. So definitely didn't make a lot of friends musically. Went deeper and deeper into classic rock in college. And I remember the exact day that you were talking about with the Grammys, and I remember the outrage at UMass and everybody like being just furious and like in shock, and all my friends listening to Radiohead, and I was kind of like, oh, this is cool, Steely Dan won. It was lucky I didn't get like ran out of the dorm basically. So it's really funny to hear that setup, because I was like one of the few people who was like, oh great, they won something, all right, good for them. I didn't think that much of it because I wasn't into much contemporary music, but at the time, and kind of had tuned out on contemporary music for about 15 years, from like 1990 through mid 2000s. So Steely Dan, saw them I don't know how many times, over 10 on most of their tours, with rare exception, and pretty huge fan. They're in my like top 3 bands of all time. I'm also not a big favorites guy, but I've typically cited Steely Dan as like in the running for favorite band. So I don't know. That's my experience with them. Big fan. This album was pretty out of the blue when I saw it was coming, and I was excited, but also really like, I don't know,
suspicious.
Yeah, like let's see how this goes. And so
the old Steely Dan sausage machine still runs. I gotta put in some machine oil. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, based on like the Alive in America album, I hadn't, first into Steely Dan as I hadn't really like warmed up to the latest iteration. I'm like, well, let's see how the studio album is, compared to that.
I'm sure the sausage machine still works after a 20-year absence.
Yeah,
it's not that long, is it?
So it sounds like I'm pretty much the outlier here, because like I also am very much a fan of Steely Dan, but I didn't get into them until I want to say like mid-20s, late 20s, and even then, like I would not characterize myself as like the level of fan that you guys are. Like after listening to this record a bunch of times, I went back on like kind of a deep dive and ended up hearing a lot of tracks for the first time that I wasn't too familiar with, which I'm sure would have been just commonplace for you guys. But before this episode, my only experience with Two Against Nature was, at least I thought my only experience was that Grammy story, just in a historical context. But listening to it, I realized actually, apparently some of these songs were playing around over at my parents' house at some point, because I definitely remember hearing one or two of these when I was growing up without realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad is a huge jazz head, so invariably he would be into Steely Dan.
Yeah, that tracks. And I know he's big into Todd Rundgren too. They're kind of like similar styles there.
Yeah, or at the very least, like a similar kind of track where you can see where they'd be coming from.
Yeah, or they share a lot of the same fan base, and they work together too. I think they did a song a few years back.
Tinfoil Hat, right?
Yeah, Tinfoil Hat, making fun of like Donald Trump or something like that.
Yep.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a decent track. Very well produced. That's really all you can say about it.
Yeah.
That's the least you could say.
Yeah, interesting to see like Donald Fagen going political, because I never really got that angle too much in most of the Steely Dan canon, and even like maybe some like societal commentary on the solo stuff. But yeah, it was, things change.
Right. All right. Do you think we should start getting into the songs?
Let's dive in.
All right. So we lead off immediately. Track number 1, Gaslighting Abbey.
Or else maybe tonight a hand of solid pain. Flame is the game.
That's unfortunate.
Hey.
Not the song itself, just like the first time that I queued this up and saw like the first track was literally called Gaslighting Abby. Just thought to myself, oh no.
I mean, at least
I mean, I
open about
knew
it.
I knew that Steely Dan had a predilection for being hedonistic old men, but Jesus, a literal song about gaslighting that wouldn't fly nowadays.
So I just pulled up songfacts.com, which I don't know how reliable this website is, but there is a registered trademark next to it for some reason. This song is about an affair between a married man and his mistress who are plotting a way to drive his wife insane. Okay.
Cool.
That's not great. Yeah, and of course the term gaslighting means to drive someone insane.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
great.
I have Genius up, and that's pretty much what it says too. The
That's
two
been the
make a
general
game of
consensus.
gaslighting Abby, making her think she's going insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You know, fun.
So it's like a much darker Rose Darling, because like at least in that song, Snake Mary's like, you know, she's off in Detroit with a bunch of money. She's fine. But in this case, they're actually like looking to harm this woman who's supposed to be married to this guy. Jesus Christ. That's terrible.
Yeah, let's make this light, breezy little jazz pop ditty out of just psychologically torturing this woman who's not even cognizant of the fact that she's being tortured. I mean, Jesus, there's literally a line in here about spiking tea with Dilaudid.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I missed that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
God. I love it. And here's why. I mean, it's interesting that they went there, and that it's kind of an early use of the term too, because you didn't really hear gaslighting used like it's definitely much more in the mainstream now. Like,
Yeah, that's true. It didn't really
Like-
become a more mainstream concept until the Me Too movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really came into mainstream.
Yeah, when this song came out, I gotta admit, I was not familiar with that term at all and had to look it up. And when I got the album, I was just like, what is this even? And then I read the lyrics. I was like, oh, I have a little booklet in front of me still from 22 years ago when I got it. So it's crazy.
Jeez. Like I think I told you this in the chat, but like from my deep dive that I ended up going on after listening to Two Against Nature, I kind of reached a point, like by the time I got to Gaucho, which was their last album, their last studio record before this one, I think like the sort of correlation point became a lot more clear, at which point they sort of reached critical mass of being really creepy, perverted old men.
That's about right.
Because like you go from Gaucho, which has like Babylon Sisters and Hey 19, to this thing.
It was a logical progression for sure. And that 20-year gap
totally.
it became like more like a 3 to 5 year like hiatus or something. Like, you know, you get the night fly in between and the little like solo break, and then like, yeah, let's get right back on. And you got to wonder if some of the stuff maybe tracks back to the early attempts with the reunion in the mid 80s, but I don't know enough about that or if that's even out there to know that. But I know that some of these were in the hopper for a while, I think. So I think you're definitely onto something there.
That's interesting. Musically, because I do need to comment on the music. I was having a little trouble with this one.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to need to be the one to point out most of those, because like after like the lyrical content, I mostly just heard these as well-produced jazz rock songs. So any of those, you know, any of those sort of more minute features, I'm just going to be relying on you to really comment on.
Yeah. So just like comparing it to Donald's two solo records that he had done since, so the Night Fly and then Comic Period in 1993. So just like judging off that, and even Gaucho for that matter, you kind of get a sense of like Donald Fagen is really like the more like pop oriented guy, and Walter Becker is a little more into like the arcane, weird end of it. Because the Night Flight in particular is like, it's dense. It has a lot of kind of arcane, weird chord progression and stuff like that. But it's definitely a little more on the poppy side. And then this one just kind of there's a lot of bass movement, and there's a lot of different kind of like things drop out and then like kind of come back in. And I think it's just because I've only heard it once, or I listened to this album twice all the way through in preparation for this, and it kind of made a little more sense the second time around. But I was kind of having trouble like locking into melodies with this one at first. It kind of felt like a bit of a warm up at times. I like the guitar stuff. Great guitar tone. Really, really glad to hear that sort of like slick, like jazz chorus kind of back and play. It takes you to a place in like a time period, I guess, and it works. And I'm going to assume this is recorded digital, right? Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because they were even tracking stuff by I think Gotcha was done digitally. I think that was a really early 3M.
Nightfly was too. Actually, you're right. That was an early 3M situation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, both of those were done digitally, and it was definitely one of the earlier albums. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the song. That's a good way to put it. I was impressed with just the sheer number of chords and key changes that they shoved into the first track coming back after 20 years. It felt like they almost had this feeling of, well, to me, the way I interpret it was, we got to like at least be up to snuff in terms of what we were doing on Gaucho,
like they were coming in and just sort of be like, hey, we were gone for a while. We're still all about this though.
Exactly. Like we've still got it in terms of like musical complexity, and that there's a lot of ear candy in there, which is in some ways unusual for Steely Dan, like you said, with the production being kind of a lot of movement and just the blippiness is what I would call it more than anything.
Yeah.
It's definitely different for them.
There's a lot more interplay like between what the keys are doing, which you got a little bit on Gaucho too, but there's like a little more like there is like sort of a chord progression going, but maybe it's split up between the different instruments or something.
Yep, definitely.
Should we move on to track number 2, you think?
Yeah.
All right, here's track number 2. This one titled "What a Shame About Me."
But I'm just about to quit. I'm worried about the future now, or maybe this is it. It's not all that I thought it would be. What a shame about me.
This one, I feel like, after just sort of being completely blindsided by a song about gaslighting, this second one kind of feels a little more in tune with what I was hoping for going into a late era Steely Dan record.
Yeah.
Both like instrumentally and thematically.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
Sorry. For all the songs that they've written about just boundless hedonism, I feel like there's every bit as many self-effacing songs about just being a loser as well. And I feel like this one kind of really just sort of introduces that facet of it back to the fold, as it were. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of their sort of loser archetypes, character sketches that they do. And yeah, I like this one. It felt like they were, they were kind of referencing their older stuff, but not pilfering too much. I hear it a couple of times over their album. They talk about the old school, which probably is a reference to their song "My Old School."
Yeah, from Countdown to Ecstasy.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think melodically, I was hearing more Walter, and that kind of that style of guitar that he does. Was that him playing guitar?
It is.
Yeah,
yep.
That's what I thought. It sounds like his sort of melodic style. So I was getting a little bit more of that and more of his tone, and it was yeah, man, glad to hear him.
Looking at the personnel, it looks like he plays guitar on a majority of the tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, by Asia, I don't even think he was. I think he contributed like 3 guitar solos to that one, maybe, if that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of on his way to checking out, which he
Checking in, if you will. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm checking in.
But yeah, I mean, like for the history that Steely Dan has with like using tons and tons of ringers, not so many on guitar this time around.
Yeah,
we got John Harrington on rhythm guitar for certain tracks, Paul Jackson Jr., Hugh McCracken, and Dean Parks making contributions on guitar.
Yeah, Dean Parks is a guy, isn't he? He's
yeah, the latter two actually were both on the original 70s albums.
That's
the
right.
7, yeah. Hugh McCracken and Dean Parks. Yep.
Yeah, right here. Looks like Dean Parks played on Pretzel Logic, Katie Lied, and The Royal Scam. Oh, and Asia.
There's him. Oh, Hugh McCracken and Larry Jimmy and Biff Furlington and
there's no Larry Jimmy, Pat.
There's Raccoon Baxter and
no Raccoon Baxter.
Raccoon Baxter.
Stunk Bailey.
He's playing down the Cape actually.
There's no
I did see that he's playing down the Cape. Skunk Baxter is.
It's in a tiny room, and it's like, oh, that's gotta be wild. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
I didn't know he was still playing music. I thought he was like all in on being a defense contractor now.
That's right.
I know. What a life.
My goodness.
Wild. Yeah, I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah, not a lot of complaints for this one. Again, I want the melodies to stick out a little bit more, but I think that's kind of more what they were going for. I was getting the sense on this album they didn't want the melodies to be too obvious and like too just like out front like that. And I and it was kind of gave it this again, like I appreciated it more the second time around. I think it was kind of a more rewarding listen that time around when I could kind of anticipate things more. But yeah, the first time around I was still kind of taking a lot in.
Yeah. On that note of what you're saying, like I do think the melody is kind of upfront on What a Shame About Me more so than Gaslighting Abby, but I feel like that kind of works a little more to its advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. I mostly I love their melodies. It's like a huge part of what kind of draws me in is, the sort of like very catchy hooks on top of these, weird chords.
Yeah, that's one thing that can be said for like a huge majority of this record is that it has a lot of earworms on it. Like I would say 2/3 of the songs on this album are earworms, and the last third is kind of forgettable.
Just regular worms. Old worms.
Just worms burrowing into your brain.
Just worms burrowing into your brain and gaslighting you slowly.
Here's track number 3, 2 Against Nature, the title track.
2 against nature, turn and lean. Wouldn't be heat and skank if things unseen. 2 against nature, slinging dread. Steel balls wanna bang the skulls of things undead.
See, therein lies the problem with the format that I've kind of set for audio recordings, that I only do like 20 seconds worth of the song. I mean, we're probably not going to get quite in as much trouble, like, record company wise, but at the same time, it's painting such a rigid and narrow picture of like everything that does actually happen in the songs. And like, I feel like it's nowhere near as clear than on Steely Dan songs for like how many different peaks and valleys they often go on.
Well, it's kind of like when we went on the Rock Candy show and Maggie played a clip from Asia. It was just like the second chorus, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I love that song, but I was just thinking like, man, I wish we got like a little bit more of this solo, or like, oh, you got to check out this part. But I realized it's a fucking 8-minute song. Like that's completely unreasonable to expect from someone.
Yeah.
there's so many things to pick out and sort of talk about. So yeah, this one was kind of we got a little kind of 3/4 Latin samba thing happening. It's
very Latin tinged, I would say.
Yeah, this one's fun. Again,
another earwormy kind of track, I would say too.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to the Todd Rundgren album that we did, The Individualist. Only not because they didn't rap. Thankfully, they don't do any rapping on this album, but just like the idea of like, I don't know, like I could see where people get pissed off about like, all right, this is a group kind of known for being like a two-person unit, two-person vehicle, and then like to have the album be like Two Against Nature, we're back, baby. I don't know, like
think about it in those terms, but yeah, that's very silly.
And like I kind of have that same feeling
Very
with the Individualist, who is like, you know, really like nailing it home. Like, yeah, I get it, man. You're an individual. We know. We all listen to Wizard of True Star. You're fucking weird. You get it. Yeah, it's kind of like I get where like, I don't know, someone like Christopher Brown back in 2000 probably watched that Grammys, tears coming to his eyes, welling in his eyes, just absolutely devastated. Who the fuck are these? Who is this Steely Dan? Who are they? I'm going to take them down. I'm going to.
Who are these old white douchebags wearing sunglasses indoors?
My white guys were supposed to win. God damn it! Not those old white guys.
I wanted my white guys to win, not those white guys. Those white guys are bad, not like my white guys.
Kid A is an incredible album. It's also one of my favorites. Great. And so is Midnite Vultures is also a great album. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I not really any complaints about this song other than it just no. There's some cool soloing that happens in this one. I like when it kind of devolves into the like different solo sections and it kind of like things get crunchy. It's really cool.
Yeah. See, it's funny you mentioned that thing about like the self-referential bit of like it being called Two Against Nature, because just out of curiosity, I'm on Genius, as I usually am, and in their about section there's like a quote from Donald Fagen in an interview with the Raleigh News and Observer that might actually add some credence to that. He puts it, "We're kind of elevating ourselves to a heroic position. Our fans are being troubled with demons of aging, insanity, and we're offering ourselves up as someone who can deal with it. Kind of a Ghostbusters theme, if you will. The idea that art can be curative. Listen to this. Maybe it will cheer you up." I mean,
like that? Sure.
I don't know if it's quite as overt as, Todd Rundgren rapping about himself. But it's kind of similar-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear that quote and then see what happens just a couple of years later on Everything Must Go, and how their tune changes quite quickly in a post like 9/11 world.
I've heard a lot that Everything Must Go is actually kind of like more widely considered their worst record. But I feel like we kind of had to pick this one because of the controversy surrounding it with the whole Grammys story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, this had the more interesting story, and I hadn't gotten the chance to listen to Everything Must Go yet, but it's on my list next.
Me neither.
And I heard it was kind of like a Steely Dan clearance sale. That was the.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. It's not my favorite album. I'll just grunt and admit that.
In the same way that Pat grunts whenever you say yacht rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's track number 4. This one titled Jamie Runaway.
Who makes the morning fabulous? Who says today's a fun day? Why do I feel like sailing again? Honey, it's you, Jamie Runaway. Let's grab some takeout.
Okay, so Steely Dan really frustrates me sometimes because they come up with these crazy catchy melodies that get stuck in your head, and then you find yourself just like singing to yourself like this song about sugar daddies.
Yeah.
Like I have not been able to shake Hey 19 from my head like all day, and that's not a song I want stuck in my head. I don't want to just be walking around just being like the Cuervo Gold, and for someone to hear that
Fine Colombian.
See, so many people just think it's a party song. They take it at that. They hear those two lines and then that's it, and they're satisfied.
Talking about coffee. I just want some Colombian coffee.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's Juan Valdez, right? Is that
Yeah.
But yeah, that chorus, that damnable chorus is just it's another earworm. It's so freaking catchy.
So is that what we're dealing with here? This is like a sugar daddy situation, because I was like hearing about this girl like getting to go to Spain on her birthday and like
Genius.com, their interpretation says things go from bad to worse for an ingenue named Janie. She flees Florida for New York after her father goes berserk, but finds herself falling right into the hands of the song's speaker, an older man who sings her praises and is willing to give her nice things if she gives him what he wants in return. Cool.
All right. I think I don't think they actually like these people aren't like this in real life. I don't think Donald Fagen and Walter Becker are out there. I mean, I don't know per se. I mean, we don't know 100% about what these guys are up to in the early 2000s, but I just know they have a predilection to want to write these characters that, these sort of loathsome, disgusting characters. And maybe it's like a projection of how they feel about themselves. Like, who knows?
Maybe that's their way of getting it out of their system.
Exactly. Like a sort of who's that guy, Anthony Burgess, sort of writing his Clockwork Orange type thing, where it's like, just like, obviously he never did any of these fucked up things, but it was sort of like he was overcoming some things or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's one hand it is like, entertaining. On the other hand, it's like, why are these guys thinking about this? Why is this on their mind so much? Why can't they think about like nice things? Like, I don't know, getting a pretzel from the park. Why can't you go back to that?
Or drug dealers.
No, they were pretzels.
Why can't they sing about nice things like cocaine and basketball?
Yeah, my favorite. Hoops McCann.
Hoops McCann.
Yeah.
And then they got Szechuan dumplings.
Yeah, after the deal's done.
I love dumplings. Why can't they write about that?
You know what? I got just the song for you. It's called Can't Buy a Dumpling.
I mean, sure. It doesn't make these lines less creepy, though.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Here. You be the showgirl. I'll be Sinatra. Way back in '59. Sweetness in heels. Look at you in long black gloves. Come to old blue eyes. Tell me, who do you love?
He wasn't
Gross.
that young. What's gross is like I don't think Donald Fagen was that young in 1959. Like, how old is he? When was he born?
He was born 48, I think.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought he was older. So he was.
I mean,
10.
still, he would have been like 11 or something, right?
Yeah, I mean that's he could have had a job by then. You don't know. I don't know what child labor's like. Child labor laws were like in the 50s. I wasn't alive.
Yeah, none of us were.
Yeah, we can't prove anything that happened before 1980.
I guess we're back to square one.
All right.
Should we move on to track 5, or do you have anything else you want to add about Janie Runaway?
I don't think so. I think we're dealing with more of the same. I think we're again this one kind of picked up a little more in my ears the second go around, and I think I kind of warmed up a little bit more to the album as it went along too, up to a point. But yeah, this song musically was pretty cool. I don't remember a ton about it, but yeah, the vocal melodies are catchy. Why not? Sure. Good job, guys.
Had some pretty nice saxophone solos, like as the bridge in between like verses.
I believe it. I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, that's another thing about Steely Dan songs, if you think about it. Like if you just, there was this amazing hurdy-gurdy solo.
Exactly. just someone completely whiffing it on hurdy-gurdy. Like, I don't know what happened that day. Just we couldn't get it right, and I don't know, ran out of time.
No, I mean, like, like who's really going to check up on that?
Right.
Like,
no, exactly.
You would absolutely believe, like, oh yeah, they got some hurdy-gurdy guy to come in and just really rip it on Janie Runaway.
They got Hoff Narfkin. Harf Narfkin on
Yes,
hurdy-gurdy.
famed hurdy-gurdy virtuoso Hoff Narfkin.
Yeah, I love him. He was great in the Flying Burrito Brothers. Just one.
Here's track number 5, Almost Gothic.
I'm on fire, so cut me some slack. First she's way gone, then she comes back. She's all business, then she's ready to play. She's almost gothic in a natural way.
So here's what Genius.com has to say about this one.
Okay.
Boy.
Dive right into it.
The 5th song on Steely Dan's 2000 comeback album, Two Against Nature. This song has fascinating lyrics portraying what appears to be a typical Steely Dan topic, an older man falling for a charming, albeit unstable, younger lady. But the song is actually an exercise in using what appears to be metaphors literally. What initially seems like an older man falling for a younger woman is actually about an older man describing his obsession with his dominatrix.
Oh. Why are all
Cool.
these songs about fucking sexy times, man? They were horny. I'd send these guys to horny jail.
Yeah, I mean, the Genius.com article even mentioned in the Two Against Nature section that it has the distinction of being the only song on there that doesn't have sex in it.
I guess that they're just not having sex that day. You can do
So-
other things with your dominatrix. Sure, you can go out to lunch and
And
she
and
sits
like-
on your head while you do it, but that's the way to do it.
Like, there's literally a quote in the Two Against Nature section where, like, in that same, I don't know why I mentioned this until now, but in that same article, Donald Fagen is just like, oh, crap, we didn't put sex in there.
So,
Like, oops.
so take this at face value, but I'm looking at the CD booklet that came with this, and I'm on track 5, Almost Gothic, and on that page, the image is backside of 2 girls roller skating down a boardwalk, presumably something like Santa Monica or somewhere out in LA, and
Chelsea
yeah,
Pier or something.
yeah, exactly, and just I wouldn't say scantily clad, but kind of scantily clad, and yeah, I don't think there's any other images of that in the entire book. It's mostly reindeer, and
Reindeer.
surprisingly, reindeer, like imagery of reindeer. Two Against Nature, 2 little like stencil drawings of reindeer or something. If you go a little further along, lawn ornaments of reindeer on a future track. And yeah, a lot of yard ornamentation. There are some pink flamingos on the back too. So yeah, I don't know, but
I wonder if that's
oddly
some
enough-
kind of. I wonder if that's some kind of aesthetic theme. Like, I wouldn't have known that because I don't have the actual album itself, so I couldn't have looked at the booklet.
yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because like most people probably don't have the CD because they're not weird like me and bought the CD in 2000. But I got it the day it came out from like Newbury Comics, I think. But
Nice.
yeah. Yeah, Almost Gothic was one of the teaser tracks that they put 3 songs on whatever primitive internet website they had at the time. I don't know that SteelyDan.com was a thing or whatever it is. They used to have a really strange website, actually.
geocities.com/user/SteelyDan.
It really was like all text links and stuff. There was very little imagery.
Angelfire.com/SteelyDan42069 blaze it.
Pretty much.
/FTP/ I mean, that'd be great. They would have a file transfer service like right there for you right away in the early 2000s. They would.
Angelfire.com/SteelyDan-Walter Becker sucks -no I don't.
They both. True. I love that. So that's good because they both kept it. We're leaving them both in. Walter insisted that he get to say that, or what was it? Donald says that Walter sucks, and then Walter's like, "No, I don't. You suck."
I don't think they understood like computers enough to know how to change it.
But they're not there to learn computers. They're here to learn how to play the clavinets and the guitar, and sometimes bass. So speaking of aesthetics, I was trying to think of like for for some reason, just like seeing the title "Almost Gothic," like what's an aesthetic that's almost Gothic? Is that like kind of brought me right back to the early 2000s? Exactly. Like I was thinking of Hot Topic, or thinking of like you know, we
new metal.
We had these people in Norwood that were like, you know, like out in the suburbs, you know, like we were kind of just dealing with whatever was on the radio and MTV for our pop culture. So it was like everyone was sort of like a mix between rave, new metal, and goth somehow. And like, and terrible music taste, of course. About that, but like that's what we were all like.
So what you've just described, you basically just described Dionne Ward, but go on.
Wait, describe who?
Dionne Ward?
Oh, Dionne Ward. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Woof.
Yeah, seriously. But go on.
No, I don't know, that was just what I was thinking. Was like early 2000s. Like, oh, that's like my first girlfriend. She's almost Gothic, kind of, almost rave. But yeah, so this was like a dominatrix sort of situation where, yeah, I can see where the goth kind of comes into play there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, also the sort of just immediately jumping to like, oh, this is a Gothic thing, when it's not really. There's really nothing to like tenuously tie, like, you know, dominatrixes to the Gothic aesthetic necessarily.
Maybe he gets tortured. Okay, maybe the dominatrix tortures Donald Fagen by making him listen to The Cure. And like he hates goth, he hates The Cure, he hates Bauhaus, he hates all this mopey English post-punk nonsense. It's his personal hell. It's like making Pat Metheny listen to Bob Dylan or something.
Did you guys like it? It's interesting, like reading about like Pat Metheny, like how he just sort of like called out Kenny G as being like, you know, oh, I hate smooth jazz. Like, that's what you do though, Pat Metheny.
It's like, I know, right? No, like it was a bit of like the
and I like Pat Metheny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Chick Corea calling what's that other guy?
George Benson?
Yeah, George Benson, sure. calling him a sissy.
What's his face? The cornet guy?
Cornet.
No, not
Ornette Coleman, you know.
Who's that guy that I'm thinking of? He's got that famous album cover where he's just kind of hugging his trumpet.
Oh my god.
Oh, I know. Not the guy on King of the Hill.
King of the Hill.
Yes.
Oh, that's a flugelhorn. My god.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Why is this drawing a blank?
I don't
Chuck
know.
Mangione.
Chuck Mangione. That's who it is.
Yeah, that took me forever. Like
So
immortalized in King of the Hill.
I'll just close my thoughts out by saying, like, it's interesting that this was one of the teaser tracks on what's ostensibly supposed to get people really excited for this record, because Almost Gothic was one of the ones I found just really, really imminently forgettable.
Yeah, I couldn't remember this one either. I'm having trouble remembering what the clip was that you chose. What happened then? Describe it.
Well, it's an MP3 file, and it has what Pitchfork would describe as glossy bop pop.
Bop pop. Oh yeah, no, I remember the bop pop. I remember the bop pop.
Speaking of Pitchfork, we'll get to that a little bit later.
Oh man.
For now, let's play track number 6. We're already more than halfway through the album.
Wow.
Here's track number 6, Jack of Speed.
Don't stop. He'll be calling out your name, but don't stop. When you hear him plead, you better move now, little darling. You'll be trading falls. Jack of Speed.
Of course, there had to be, like, it being a Steely Dan album, there'd be at least one song about drugs on here.
Oh yeah. This track kind of rules. I was very happy when I heard this one. I was the main hook kind of reminds me of Caves of Altamira a bit, but like with a little more funk.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very reminiscent of Kid Charlemagne, which is one of my favorite Steely Dan tracks.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mix of both of them, King Charlemagne and Caves of Altamira.
Same key as Caves, actually, I think.
Yeah, around like F sharp or something. But
yeah, F sharp, I think. Yep.
Tying right back into Royal Scam. Yeah, sure, it's a dark album. A lot of quite a few drug references on that one. So that makes sense. They were kind of in that mindset.
Yeah.
Like rolling back to what you said about like Steely Dan not really covering political topics too much. Maybe that's not quite the case because I'm looking at the lyrics here. Here's an interesting excerpt. Sheena's party. There's a case in point. That right-wing hooey sure stuck up the joint.
True.
He's gone. He walks through the old routines, but he's gone, guaranteed.
That's true.
That's an interesting line. Very sorry about like some like John Birch guy or something.
I mean,
That's
maybe it's not like overtly political so much as just sort of being like, look at this right-wing douchebag.
Yeah, I felt like it wasn't as prevalent in the older, like what I call like classic Steely Dan or original Steely Dan. It's no original Steely Dan really, but like the 72 to 80 period, I didn't notice that tone as much. Maybe it wasn't a thing as much when they were younger, but it does come out more now that you pointed out here.
Yeah.
And then like as they age too through the decades and some of their like personal writings and stuff, you definitely see their political views come out more. I don't know if that's just them getting older and thinking about it more, or
That's what I'd assume.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. And they're engaging with it a bit more. They probably, they've lived through the 80s and 90s at this point, and all the world events that happened in between then, and
That's true.
social changes and all that stuff.
Normally that, probably would have caused them to cut back on writing songs about drugs and having sex with underage children, but no.
No, you got to squeeze that in too. There's they had to make equal measure for the sort of creepy old uncle songs.
Speaking of creepy old uncle, track number 7.
What a segue.
This one
I gave that to you. That's a gift.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will treasure it and put it on the mantle.
Good.
Here's track number 7. This one I definitely remember hearing played a lot at my parents' house when I was growing up. And like I've never been great at picking out lyrics unless they're just like right up front in a mix. So there's no way I could have known that this was a song about incest. Here's track number 7, Cousin Dupree.
Honey, how you've grown like a rose. Well, we used to play when we were 3. How about a kiss for your cousin Dupree? How about a kiss for your cousin Dupree?
I like how you led in with the little Tinkly Roads line. That was just too fitting.
God damn it.
I hate that this song is so catchy.
This is the single. This was what was like blasted on ZLX when it was like Steely Dan is back, and they just hammered you with this song, and I was like, why didn't they do Jack of Speed as the single? Like, come on, guys.
I don't remember hearing this. I'm absolutely in this very uncomfortable position where those lyrics are they are creepy and icky, but god damn, that song is so good. That's like a really good song.
Yeah.
It's catchy. There's no denying. That's why it's a single, I guess.
And like, it hits on a lot of things that they do, and also like was kind of like interesting and unique to kind of like, take this direction musically or whatever. But whew, I mean, they're going to some dark places on this album, man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is like this guy is supposed to be a scumbag, of course, but like, oh goodness, wasn't expecting an incest song from Steely Dan in the year of our Lord 2000.
It was a little like overt and just in your face for me. Like I was actually turned off by it, like because their lyrics were at least somewhat cryptic, and you had to do some digging into it, hear it a few times, like you guys been saying, like you listen to it a couple times and get it a little bit more in each listen. But this one, it was just like just getting hit over the head with a sledgehammer from them.
I got the message right away. First time hearing it.
Yeah, they at least have the decency to like have the guy get something of a comeuppance, because like in the very last verse before the last chorus, he does get told off. Like he tries to make a play for his cousin and she's just sort of like, no, you're gross. And he's just like, but what's the downside? Because he's an idiot.
Yeah, maybe ugly and a creep. And wait, what was the third thing you said?
Here's the exact line. One night we're playing gin by a crackling fire and I decided to make my play. I said, babe, with my boyish charm and good looks, how can you stand it for one more day? She said, maybe it's the skeevy look in your eyes or that your mind has turned to applesauce. The dreary architecture of your soul. I said, but what is it exactly that turns you off?
Mm-hmm.
That is a great line. I remember hearing that and I was like, okay, this kind of saves the song a little bit for me.
Fair play to that, but did he have to deliver the hook in such a creepy, semi-whispery that, how about a kiss for your cousin Dupree? Can't you just...
he doesn't usually get breathy like that, and it is creepier.
Can't you just picture like him getting way too close to the camera with like creepy, just like pursed lips?
Oh yeah, baby, come on close.
Like a similarly appropriately creepy John Kay close-up of his lips.
I believe the Donald Fagen lips are referred to in the the biography that Steely Dan reeling in the years. Somebody had made fun of him and called them Michelin tire lips.
Oh my God.
He does have very prominent lips, doesn't he?
Yeah. If you look at some of the 70s pictures, it's pretty funny with the snarl on his face and everything.
That's how he gets the tone. That's how he gets the tones with those snarling lips and like kind of like
the teeth,
nostrils all big and the teeth. Oh yeah.
The canines coming out.
He's like Shane McGowan, but with all of his teeth.
Yeah.
One of my friends referred to him as a werewolf, actually. It's like, oh my God, Donald Fagen's turning into a werewolf circa 2003 or so, I think.
I like when he busts out the melodica. That's always fun.
Yeah. There's a certain way with it that he kind of just like violently jerks it up and down. Like it's pretty hilarious to watch.
It's my hooter. I hoot with it.
I make my toots with it.
Allow me to toot. Donald, do we need to? You don't even know how to play that.
Donald, now's not the time for toots. I'll toot whenever I damn well feel like it.
Now, Donald, this is what we disagreed on back in 1980. I said no more toots, and here you are tooting once again.
Sucks to your disagreement, Walter. I'm on a toot.
Other the pox on thee.
That ain't no sassafras.
Yeah, none of your sassafras. What's that?
Certainly wasn't a toot. Just kidding. I'm tooting.
I know. You've been tooting incessantly for hours.
So can we go home now? No, Brecker Brothers. You stay here and watch me toot.
You, Larry Carlton, fetch a camera.
Get in real close, Bernard Purdy. I want you to hear this toot.
Get real close. Right here. Come here.
Great job. Can we go now? No!
No! It's like a super villain now. No, you must hear my toot. You will hear my toot at once. Cheat commandos.
Turned into like Megatron or like Cobra Commander.
You'll hear my toot or you'll be evicted.
I'll get those toots from you once and for all.
Godson it with those toots. Here's track number 8, Negative Girl.
Another negative girl spilling out of the frame, exquisitely limpid, the original classic theme. More of the same.
This one kind of another whispery song for Donald. Maybe it was like maybe it was just approaching the end of the day and he didn't really have any more reeling in the gears in him.
Interesting, and ending on that last line, more of the same. This I kind of like this one. It was didn't love it, but I definitely remembered it. I remembered it as like a sort of like more stripped back track, or not stripped back, just like more mellow, I guess.
Yeah, this
In a lot
one
of
I
ways.
feel like it's kind of forgettable until I hear like some of those really cool vibraphone stuff that happens on it.
Yep.
And then it just
Yeah.
all comes shooting back. Like, oh, this is the one with the cool vibes on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, it's all great playing. It's all, great production. It's the question is, is it memorable? Is it up to the standard of their sort of like classic year songwriting? I would say yes.
Oh, yeah?
Again, this is also kind of dealing with like there's a lot of denseness, a lot of chord movement, a lot of bass movement that I'm still kind of getting used to wrapping my head around. So yeah, this one wasn't as tough as say like Gaslighting Abbey to get into, but there was definitely a lot of crazy shit kind of happening with the chord movements.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a heck of a lot to say about this one. I guess.
Then let's bring it to a close with track number 9, West of Hollywood.
Sure.
But with a business like this, there's an early downside. I'm way deep into nothing special, riding the crest of a wave breaking just west of Hollywood.
This one I think is also kind of catchy, especially that chorus, but I feel like it sticks around for way longer than it needs to. This one is the longest track on the record at 8 minutes and 22 seconds. And I feel like it actually ends maybe like 3 minutes before the 8-minute 22 mark. Because there comes a point where like after it's gone through enough choruses where it's just repeating a lot of the same sort of, beats over and over again without really that much different in the way of soloing, I would say.
Yeah, so I think this is their longest track to date since Asia. Asia was like exactly 8 minutes, I think. So I think this is one of their longest. I don't know. It's on Everything Must Go, but it doesn't quite do. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but it doesn't like quite go through all the peaks that Asia does. It kind of like stays on this one like kind of intense level throughout the whole thing. The verses kind of start right away. The song itself kind of like starts right away. And then I think like its purpose was like, you get these verses, choruses established, and then they kind of like just devolve off into this other thing. So I kind of got what they were going for, I guess. Now, was it like 100% engaging for me, Bart, like the whole 8 minutes? Maybe not this time around, maybe like with future listens, sure. But yeah, I think like initial listens, there's a lot to take in, and at the same time, like not quite enough. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of repetitive yet not, I guess, but it does just kind of sit at that intensity the whole song, and that driving us. You don't get the space that you would with like another epic, I guess I'd call it, like Asia, where you get that variety that just makes that such a iconic song. It's cool, and the solo is definitely nothing to sneeze at, but is it 2 minutes, 3 minutes too long? You could argue that.
Yeah.
It could have been like a 2 minute and out at like 5:30 or something on it, like a lot of the other songs on the album. Definitely.
So since we're coming to a close on this one, I saved this part for last. So looking at Two Against Nature's reviews, it seems generally like, retrospectively, people would have different things to say about it, but upon its release, it seemed to be mostly greeted to largely positive or just sort of middling reviews, with one notable exception: the persnickety hipsters at Pitchfork, who gave the record 1.6 out of 10.
Okay, to be fair, they gave Asia a 10. So
yeah,
they gave other records of them, like other of theirs of like pretty high ratings. So
yeah, I'm looking at this like that initial review came out in 2000, and all these reviews I'm seeing right here for like, looks like their entire discography, save for Pretzel Logic, and everything must go. And it's all like, you know, tens and 9 point whatevers and all that sort of stuff.
I'm surprised they haven't done Pretzel Logic yet, because that's usually like kind of one of their most critically acclaimed too. I wonder if they'll do that at some point. But yeah,
maybe.
They did a series a few years back where they reviewed all their older albums, and like, yeah, they gave them all high reviews. So,
but yeah, the fact that this review came out in like 2000 tells me that, you know, they didn't have anyone on staff that didn't just look at Steely Dan and think, oh, look at these pretentious boomers.
I hate
like
my
that,
dad. That's what they were saying.
Like they didn't have that wider context of influence or anything like that. But yeah, they gave it 1.6. This review by Brent DeCrescenzo, reviewed February 29th, 2000. Would you like me to read the whole thing in its entirety?
Yeah, you know, we got time. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'd like to hear it.
Here's some thoughts from Mr. DeCrescenzo. I don't know how to pronounce his name. If you are a diehard Steely fan band... let me try that again.
Steely fan band.
If you are a diehard Steely Dan fan from back in the day, let me first congratulate you on figuring out how this whole internet thing works. The computer commercials promise plug in and surf, but there's always a glitch. At work, you're too embarrassed to ask the young tech guys how the web works. They'd snicker before cranking the Fragile back up and turning back to their monitors. Never show inferiority to subordinates. So you ponytailed Jeep drivers and terrier walkers, I'm crawling inside your minds like Reeling in the Years did so many decades ago. I know you've held silly suspicions, if just for a moment, that your ponytail was perhaps pulling back your hairline. I know that this review might hurt your feelings. Here, play with this shiny silver Nokia while I chat with somebody else. That's just the first paragraph.
Jesus Christ, I already hate this.
Wow. Yeah, this is. I need a beer.
If you're a regular Pitchfork reader, why are you even curious about Steely Dan in 2000? Only their 20-year absence gives them any press or assumed credibility. Unlike Chicago, Rush, or Cheap Trick, they did not slip down a steep staircase of increasingly prosaic Prozac records. Steely Dan dodged the 80s, and they didn't make a woke up with a monster. One can imagine the hype Rush would receive in 2000 if they jumped 20 years from 1981's Moving Pictures straight to Test for Echo. This would not make Test for Echo a desirable album. For those risking it, extended absence makes for great publicity. Some of the smoothest objects known to mankind include the buttock of a baby, the belly of an otter, downy-laden terry cloth, palm olive, and rose petals. Add to that list Two Against Nature. The lengthy, indistinguishable tracks could pass for a Daniel Lanois-produced collaboration between the Dave Matthews Band and Kenny G.
Oh, come on. That's not fair.
This putrid bait lures both the smooth jazz aficionados and the hacky sackers. Fusion is too caustic a verb, better suited for nuclear physics and Don Caballero. Making pudding better describes this genre blending.
Hate this guy.
Oh, there's more. Jamming sax solos glide over neutered bassless funk. Glass guitar and percussion clink along steadily like a chorus of jangling Tag Heuers, automatic Lexus locks, popping LaCroix cans, clicking laptop covers, crystal toasts, and smacking Hollywood cheek kisses.
Wait, did you say LaCroix? I didn't know LaCroix.
I didn't think
back then.
I was just gonna say that. Like, what?
Apparently.
All right.
I mean, that.
News to me.
Let me look that up real quick.
I don't.
Now I'm really curious. LaCroix
Must know the origin of the seltzer.
Yep. Introduced 1980.
What?
Whoa. What?
Yeah, they've been around a lot longer than I would have thought.
Apparently our entire lives. Like,
clearly we weren't classy enough to know about them back then.
Well, certainly not in my family.
Yeah. We were all polar. It's polar. My dad.
That's right.
We're a polar household. God damn it.
That's the seltzer of the working class.
Exactly.
Sure was. Right out of Worcester. Right down the street from me.
We make our own seltzer. We just put the straw and we blow bubbles in it. It's great.
Okay, so where was I? Oh yes, pretentious drivel.
Yes.
The same slow bop pace is rigorously maintained. Vocals exhale so innocuously you have to hold a mirror up under the speaker to make sure it's alive. The credits list 13 producers who tackle tasks such as editing, horn arranger, consultant, project manager, and most tellingly, copyist. This is less music than production. 23 musicians took part in this album's design, 4 of which simply played snare. At the end of Wild Wild West, Will Smith destroys the giant evil machine.
Is he done?
No, there's one more paragraph.
All right.
I'm fact checking this with my CD book, and I'm looking for the list of producers. There was a Pro Tools technician, but I'll keep fact checking.
I mean, that at least makes sense. Pro Tools was a relatively new invention.
Sure was in 2000 or a little before that when they were. Yeah, that was still pretty new stuff.
Yeah. Here's the last paragraph. Music is more than craft and technique. Steely Dan's seams are hidden, the instruments are digitally lacquered, and the edges are buffed. 20 years have passed since Gaucho, and Steely Dan seem content to completely ignore them. Amazingly, Steely Dan's name has been popping up as a hip musical crush. Remember, this glossy bop pop was the indifferent aristocracy to punk rock stone throwing in the late 70s. People fought and died so our generation could listen to something better. Okay, so they died of overdoses and car crashes, but they still had soul. Keep up the good fight. Put down this sports utility vehicle of a record. As with the urban yuppie driver, the four-wheel drive is never activated. The end.
I guess, yeah. All right, I have some thoughts. I mean, clearly...
This sucks.
What's old Brent up to these days anyways?
Good question.
I mean,
he has not reviewed anything since 2004.
No, that career lasted a while.
I mean, okay, their production and arrangement are like part of what they do. It's like part of their thing. So like faulting them on like overproduction, over attention on production and arrangement, it's like, okay, like they just wanted the album to sound good. Like we're not making a Libertines album here. Like we're making a Steely Dan record. Like, you know, so I don't know. I mean, clearly this is just like a very typical kind of early 2000s hipster who was, you know, upset that his guy didn't win the Grammys or is mad at his dad or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it.
Oh my God!
I've thought.
Sorry to cut you off real quick, but I'm looking through Brent DeCrescenzo's archived reviews. He was the one who did the review for Saint Anger for Pitchfork. He gave it a 0.8.
Pretty good. Well, that's what they were doing at the time. They were just like picking albums and giving it like the lowest rating possible. That was like their claim to fame at the time was like, oh, let's give Pet Sounds a 6 because it sounds old.
A 6.2.
Yeah, let's give that
because they don't do like straight. They don't do numbers without decimals.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, also reviewed Lateralist by Tool, gave it a 1.9.
That one was funny, actually. I like that album. So,
I like it too.
It's a funny review though. But yeah, that was like what they did at the time, and they were just like looking to take like a certain. It was definitely like a certain type of band, and it always seemed to be things that I liked, like down a peg, and like I don't know, like I never had a Lexus, I never owned a yacht, I've had a ponytail. I'm sorry.
Lexus hadn't even been around 10 years at that point. I mean, come on, like when he wrote this.
I know, exactly.
And SUVs too were a fairly new thing. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and like writing about how like punk rock was the great savior, like not even realizing so many years later that so many of those old guard punks would turn out to be right-wing assholes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like fucking John Lydon.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Or like Bad Brains. Jesus Christ.
Oh no, they're right wing too.
They did homophobic.
Oh man,
for years.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, not great. I mean, it's part of they're ultra religious. That's kind of like comes with the territory.
All right.
I have not found the 14 producers. It does say on the disc itself, produced by Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. I mean, I guess that adds up to 14, but
there's 7 of them. There's 7 men each.
They have the production talents of 7 men each.
Yeah. They didn't get Gary Katz this time around, though, huh?
No, notably absent. I actually was looking for that when we were all talking about listening to the album, and I blew the dust off this and hadn't listened to it in over a decade, and I was like, oh, he's not involved in this.
I'm not really sure what he was up to after.
I tried to find that out, and I didn't admittedly look much harder than Wikipedia, but it like doesn't really cite a whole lot. after them.
He did an album in the 80s with I can't remember the artist's name, a female singer-songwriter, and actually Donald Fagen and Walter Becker did some instrumentation on the album as well.
I think I know who you're talking about. I
can't remember her name off the top of my head. I think I started to listen to it once and I didn't get into it, but I have to check it out again. But I mean, it's like very mid 80s pop.
It wasn't. Oh man, yeah. Walter Becker did quite a bit of producing in the 80s, but it wasn't Libby Titus, who he ended up marrying, right?
Was it Rosie Vela?
Rosie Vela.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Huh. Tony Levin on Chapman Stick too.
Yeah, that one had a few names on it. Yeah, Walter Becker did a bunch of production in the 80s, or like a few productions in the 80s. That's kind of what he was up to. China Crisis was that
was a big one.
That was a big one, which Fought the Imperfection, which is a very good album, by the way, that I've been listening to quite a bit lately.
I only know a couple singles by them. I should really give them a listen.
Yeah, it's a good album.
Mm-hmm. All that said, what do you say we get to our final thoughts?
Right.
Do you consider this a worst of all time record, Pat?
I can't. There's Steely Dan. I don't know. No, I mean, is it controversial? Yes. Is it the best Steely Dan album? Absolutely not. Was it the best album of 2000? Absolutely not. I think Kid A was probably more deserving of that that award. Probably just because like this wasn't like quite a revolutionary Steely Dan album. Like, you know, if they just like dropped Asia in 2000, like holy shit, like like imagine, like yeah, sure, like they could get a Grammy for that. Like it sonically sounds exactly the same as it did in 1977. They just dropped it in 2000, like they just made it. Sure, but you know they made this.
So wait, is the idea that Asia is being released in 2000 instead of 1977, or they're releasing it again in 2000?
See, I like that. No, the idea is that like
better.
they recorded it like in 97, 98 or whatever, and like released it for 2000. Like, but it sounds exactly the same. But no, I mean, like it's a band by an aging classic rock group in the 2000s. There's a lot of things with like the production that are like a bit too slick. Maybe I would have appreciated a little more analog warmth at points, but no, it's not a worst album. I think it's just album that like may have been like kind of flung into the spotlight unfairly, I guess. This could have been it probably wouldn't have gotten the ire that it did had it not been celebrated as much, if that makes any sense. If it didn't get the Grammy, if it didn't, people weren't freaking out about the fact that Steely Dan was coming back. If it just
it's entirely a victim of circumstance, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think they were just trying to make a new album. They were just trying to get some new sounds together, and I think they were mostly successful with that. Their style of writing is not easy to do, so I think they mostly managed to do some impressive stuff over the course of the album. I think it mostly just suffers from being an album released and recorded in the sort not like the beginning of the digital age, but definitely like the official we're doing this all digital now,
in the prime of it.
In the prime,
definitely.
So you're losing a little bit of the warmth that you would have gotten on their earlier records that kind of gave it character, which Fagen kind of brings back a bit on his solo album Sunken Condos. That's a very warm album that he did in 2012. So
yep.
So yeah, I mean they were just they were looking to use the technology that was the most advanced at the time. So I can't fault them for that at the same time.
Same question to you, Steve. Do you consider this a worst of all time record?
I think we'd have to try a lot harder than that. It's same thing for me. It's Steely Dan. So, I mean, have we done Everything Must Go? Woo, I still wouldn't have said so, but it's considerably more lackluster than this in a lot of ways. I have to really think about it lyrically. This is pretty challenging in 20 years on plus. It's really hard to take some of the subject matter and sit through it. It was a little uncomfortable at times, and that was just even having it on in the background while I was working, and partly listening to it as opposed to like sitting down with the two speakers in the room and just drilling into it with my eyes closed or whatever. But definitely agree with a lot of what Pat said, in that it's, victim of the times to an extent in terms of the production quality and that coldness that's present in the recordings, and it's a little too slick for me at times. Gaucho has some moments where it's a little sterile to me, even compared to anything else out of the 70s output, but I still love that album for what it is, and I see the progression that they went through, and it's like they reached the top of the mountain there, and then subsequently, broke up a year later, right? Couldn't really get past that, and then you listen to the Night Fly, and it's like, oh, well, this is the logical progression, and boy, look how close it is in terms of production work and everything. And did they evolve that same amount over the 20 years, or could you even expect them to? I don't think you can put that expectation on them after having not written together consistently all that time, and to recreate that magic of their youth. Anyone expecting that's probably going to be in for disappointment in general with classic rock artists, and in my opinion, it's varies for everybody. But to me, whenever I listen to those I don't know if we can call it a gap album, where it's like that, period of a decade or a couple decades goes by and a classic rock artist puts it out, there's going to be some moments of brilliance, I think, on the good ones. And this album has that with Jack of Speed for me. I was like, that's a great song. And I can tell you guys, just from going to the live shows, that's the one that will, if it ever gets played out of any of the last two albums they did, that'll be the song that they'll do typically. And it's actually it sits pretty well in the mix with the classics. So they recaptured a little bit of that magic here and there in moments on the album, and I like how they pushed themselves in a bit of a different direction with Two Against Nature with the title track. But yeah, it's not my favorite Steely Dan album, but solid enough, especially when you factor in all those things that I just said. So not worst.
I'm glad that that's the one that they're playing live and not Gaslighting Abbey.
Yeah.
No, I haven't really heard them attempt that. And I wonder how that would translate live these days.
As much as I don't really like to add nothing new to the conversation, I think I kind of have to agree with both of you guys' points. Yeah, I don't really consider it a worst of all time record either. It's not by any means a great Steely Dan record, but also not, unlistenable either.
Nah.
All right. What would you consider to be the best or least bad track on this record, Pat?
I think we're all probably going to go with Jack of Speed. But if I were to pick a second, I actually might go with West of Hollywood. I did enjoy that one quite a bit. It's actually the one that I knew kind of before hearing this album, because it came up on my Steely Dan Spotify radio once, and I decided to listen to it all the way through. It's the only one I actually knew. So I kind of it was Kevin, that familiarity was good, I guess.
Same question, Steve. What would you say is the best or least bad track on here?
Yeah, I kind of gave it away earlier, but Jack of Speed is probably the favorite track for me. It's that warmth, hearing the whirly and the Rhodes play off of each other, and just everything about it, the chord progression, the melody, the way the horns come in, and I really liked that one. I actually really, not surprisingly, because I feel like Pat and I sometimes have mirrored tastes on some of the 70s material, and apparently it extends to 2000 year Steely Dan. I did like West of Hollywood a lot when this album first came out. That's probably a second choice, I guess. I also think the title track's kind of cool too. Maybe it's just a different time signature. It's a little quirky for them, but I kind of like that. So, But yeah, Jack of Speed for sure.
I'm gonna say What a Shame About Me is my favorite.
That's a good one too. I like that one.
That is a good one.
Yeah. Now, what would you say is the worst track on the record, Pat?
It's not Cousin Dupree, because the music in that was actually pretty great. I'm probably gonna go with Gaslighting Abbey. That's a rough one to start with, just because it's so dense, and it feels like they're kind of warming up a bit. Maybe that was their intent. But yeah, that one is probably the toughest for me to get into.
Same question, Steve. What would you say is the worst track on here?
Oh man, that's tough. Can't do Cousin Dupree because it's so darn catchy. Even if lyrically,
and that's very frustrating.
Yes,
very, very frustrating. I just want to kind of just crawl out of my own skin when I hear it, though. It's so gross. But I just I guess I would probably go with, and I love the vibes in it, but like to me, one of the more like throwaway tracks was probably either Negative Girl or Janie Runaway. Was a little too straightforward for me. I think I don't know if it's because they did a song at C finally on Janie Runaway. I don't know. But, at least in part of it. Maybe Janie Runaway, I guess. But
I'm gonna agree with Pat about like Gaslighting Abby being a rough one, but just to keep things varied, my pick is going to be Almost Gothic, just for what a non-track it felt like to me.
Could see that too.
Yeah.
That'd be in the top 3 for me, I'd say.
Yeah, that was Two Against Nature by Steely Dan. Thank you very much for being on the program, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always,
This is a lot of fun.
Pleasure to
appreciate
talk about
it.
the
Nice
Dan.
to catch up. Yeah, I love talking about the
Have
Dan.
you got anything you want to plug before we wind things down?
Oh, me? Just for coming up if you're in the Boston area, June 25th. We're going to be very, very, very humbly opening for Freeze Pop and Carissa Johnson and the Daylilies album release over at the Crystal Ballroom. So
nice.
That's a exciting gig we have coming up. We've never played a room that large.
Very cool.
It's been a long time since I've been on a stage set for a place like that. So very, very excited. So we're doing an all new set, all new tracks, unreleased, unheard to date, which we are scrambling like hell to get ready, and all new live rig, new synths, laptops, sampling crazy things that are probably going to break wireless MIDI, guitars, Bananarama come out, and obviously nice. the musicians that we're opening for, completely and utterly amazing, and also releasing new songs or have very recently released new songs. Like, wow, what a bill.
That's really exciting. Freeze Pop.
Really honored to be part of that.
Pop.
Yeah, they're great. That's what I got to plug. Come see those guys, and if you can stomach coming at 8:00 to a show, come watch us open.
You got anything you want to plug, Pat?
Not this time around. Just Old Man Yellow Cloud will be doing some birthday bonus episodes, so keep an eye out for that. There'll be one out next month in June for Christopher's birthday, and then I'll do one in July right after that. So there'll be some new podcasts, and Nate and I are still kind of I've just been busy the past like couple weeks, so like trying to just like get some stuff done, and then eventually we'll get to focus on doing some more pods again. Get the we must watch movies. I'm sorry, we must movies. I was mixing that up with we hate movies. Must watch movies. The podcast that I do about movies with Nate Nemitz, we're gonna kick that up again, and I think that's really about it. I don't know. I'm writing some new music too, but we'll worry about that next year.
I'll just say go check out the other Zero Science podcasts on the network. There's going to be a new Hell is a Musical out pretty soon as of recording this. We just did Hedvig and the Angry Inch with one of our favorite Jukebox Zeros guests, Ashley Rogers.
Nice. That's a fun one.
And nice. I don't necessarily have any new music in the tank, but hopefully very soon, because I'm about to have a lot of free time, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Our theme song is Sunny Day by the band Froggy and the Friendship. You can check them out at froggyandthefriendship.bandcamp.com. If you have an album you'd like to suggest for us to review or just like to leave us some feedback or a comment, email us at jukeboxzerospodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/jukeboxzerospodcast or on Twitter at twitter.com/jukeboxzeros. You can find us, rate us, review us, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, or check out our archives on the Zero Science main page. Jukebox Zeros is a production of the Zero Science Network. For more great podcasts, go check out zero-science.com. And that about does it for this episode of Jukebox Zeros. I'm Lils.
Patrick.
And remember, good night.
Zero Science.